Runescape Kingdoms, Shadow of Elvarg from Steam-forged Games is a cooperative board game for 1 to 5 players where adventurers will explore the world, improving their skills and equipment as they complete quests, craft new items and face menacing foes on 4 campaigns that come with the base game. On this review, we will go through the gameplay, talk about what makes this game tick, and give the top 3 things we liked and disliked about the board game. Hi, I'm Nick from Tabletop Duo. Grab your favorite drink and let's start with the gameplay overview. You start the game by playing the Vampire Slayer campaign. Each player has a colored character sheet and chooses a character to play between the Knight, Wizard, Skiller, Archer and Clue Hunter. But they all start the same. What makes a character specialize in specific skills is yourself. The campaign is composed of a series of quests that will make players go to several regions of the world. On their turn, players can move between regions of the map either by following the paths or paying a gold coin to teleport straight to their desired region. Once in a region, they can explore by drawing a card from the corresponding region deck. The cards will either trigger skill tests or random events. Skill tests require the player to throw dice and perform a difficulty test against that skill. The number of dice a player throws depends on whether their personal skill is lower, equal or higher than the test difficulty, making things easier or harder for the player. If you succeed, you may get gold coins, resources and gain skill points. Some quests do give you penalties as well if you fail. Whether you pass or fail, you get an experience point from the skill you tested against. Once you accumulated 2 experience points and you gain another one, you level up that skill. Random events require the player to make a choice. Some options will give rewards straight away, while others will require the player to throw a die to see the outcome. Some give you equipment, which grants bonus rolls depending on the difficulty. Players can also undertake side quests, which are optional but grant useful rewards to help with the campaign. Some of them have multiple steps and require the player to craft something or give a certain number of resources. Some equipment can also be improved via upgrading. Most of the regions you visit give a free material for foraging, while other regions, the ones that have the skill symbols, allow the player to trade resources for experience points to further level up your skills. And capitals allow the player to spend gold to train their skills and gain experience points. Once the players have enough skills to complete a campaign quest, they will get new cards that orient them on the next steps. Sometimes the quests branch, requiring players to search for multiple items. I'm going to stop there, otherwise I'm going to go into spoilers territory. Players can encounter mini-bosses along the way, which require players to tackle a situation like fighting enemies on a boat while extinguishing the fire. They are fought on the mini-boss board and don't require all the players to fight it. But there is a benefit of having multiple players fighting the boss, since any extra player gives combat bonuses to the other fighters. It's important to mention a key element of the campaigns, which is the escalation rules. Whenever players visit the capital regions, they advance on the escalation track, and once the player reaches its limit, an escalation card is played, which adds negative modifiers to some regions and puts some pressure on the players to complete the main quest. If players do not complete the campaign quests before the last escalation card is played, things go south very quickly. Once you complete all the campaign quests, you get to fight the campaign boss. Boss fights happen at the back of the campaign board on a 3x3 grid. During boss fights, players have a shared health pool. Players and boss attack alternately, and each boss have a series of special rules that make each of them unique, like having to stun wizards to enable damage. Once a boss is defeated, players gain new equipment and experience points and may save their progress to continue to the next campaign. And that's the gameplay in a nutshell. Now let's get into a review of RuneScape Shadows of Elvarg. I was pleasantly surprised by the number of cool mechanics and exploration in this game. First, the campaigns are awesome to play. Each step is interesting and require you to travel around the map, gather things, talk to villagers and find ways to defeat the campaign's bad guy. Without giving any spoilers, if you do all the steps you will find easier ways to defeat them, which is super cool. Since you need to hone your skills, you will spend most of the time exploring regions and their capitals. Doing explorations and side quests is also super fun. There are many exploration cards per region, and more are added as you advance on your campaigns, which makes exploration feel unique and never a tedious job. Because of that, playing the same campaign multiple times with different groups will most certainly bring unique outcomes in terms of side quests, random events, and rewards. Leveling up your character's skills is very important, but not tedious and hard. There are many ways to level them up, and you don't need to level up every skill equally. Each character can approach their progression the way they want. The game supports it by allowing any member of the team with the right skill to perform many quests and not the entire party. So for example, if a quest asks a player to have melee skill 4 to continue, any player with that level can complete it. During mini-boss fights, it's the same thing. You can have characters that are good at defending, performing these types of tests, while characters that are good at attacking, doing attack skill tests to damage the mini-boss. There is a fair amount of time to level up your skills per campaign, so you won't be sweating to level up. Besides, when you do a skill test, you always get experience on that skill, whether you succeed or not. That's a clever design in my opinion. Because the game has these many options of exploration and many ways to customize your character with upgradable equipment, new recipes and schematics, you are always chasing materials to complete an ever-changing list of short-term goals. To help give some focus on your tasks, there is a system to counterbalance this freedom, the escalation and danger. The escalation level increases as players visit the capital region or certain events unfold, which trigger negative status to the world. For example, once a level is reached, you can have groups of bandits appearing in certain cities. I particularly like it because it's not too harsh, giving you enough time to explore, improve your skills, and do main quests, but not enough to just make you lose the focus. As a narrative board game, Runescape does a good job at that too. Whenever you do a new campaign quest or side quests, there is usually a character telling you the story, giving context to what you're doing. I mentioned the mini-bosses before, so let me talk a little bit about them. I was positively surprised by those. When a mini-boss is around, you add their token to the board and anyone can start engaging it. So you can have players engaging the boss while others are doing their quests, which is pretty cool. There's a big incentive to fight them in larger parties, since you get bonuses like less difficulty tests, extra skill levels, and experience points as rewards. I forgot to mention on the overview, but each character can take up to 2 damage during exploration before they die. But dying is not a permanent action. You respawn your character on one of the capitals, but you must choose equipment from your inventory to leave behind with death. If you or any other player reaches death, they can persuade it to give you the item back. You do get a mark for every time you die, but overall you are allowed to take risks with relatively small punishment. Now let's talk about what I consider the second part of each campaign, the boss fight. So far you've been exploring, increasing your skills, doing a ton of skill tests and taking your time. Once you get to the boss fight, the game becomes more like a traditional dungeon crawler fight. The space is a little bit tight since it's a 3x3 grid, but the fight is very optimized for that space. There is always a unique mechanic on each boss encounter, which I liked a lot. Many bosses will enrage once they get to 5 points, adding a twist to their fight. But I do believe that enraging at that number of points doesn't give the boss enough time to recuperate, as players melt their health points with some equipment you get. But again, I don't want to give you spoilers of the campaign, so just be aware that there are cool things that help you during combat. A campaign will last in average 3 hours, especially if it's your first time playing. This for us was a major positive point. Usually campaigns in these types of games take multiple sessions or double or triple the number of hours. With RuneScape, you can invite your friends over and play the entire campaign, having fun and seeing the end of it within the same play session. It's also easy to teach the game as the tutorial is really well done. There are 3 more campaigns once you complete the Vampire Slayer, so there's a ton of content to play over multiple play sessions. So we are all playing with some board game groups that would never play lengthier dungeon crawler or co-op games. There are also some expansions which add more campaigns, which we'll reveal soon in the channel, so stay tuned. Before we go to the 3 things we liked and disliked, we would like to know your thoughts about the review so far. And don't forget to like the video, as it helps us because it pushes the video to more people. And don't forget also to subscribe to get your weekly board game updates. Now let's dive into the 3 things we liked and disliked about Runescape Kingdoms Shadows of Elvarg. Starting with the things we liked, the first one is the exploration. Each exploration activity is different than the previous one, and having short-term goals give that feeling of like, let me just explore for one more turn before we continue the campaign. In fact, the gameplay is so fun that you don't see the time pass by. This brings us to the second thing we liked, which is that we can play one campaign within 3 hours. That opens up the game to so many people we wanted to play with without having to play for 6 months to have the feeling of completing a campaign. And the third thing we liked is the overall progression of the game. Players can level up the skills the way they want, and doing so is not a tedious task. Just by exploring, you will naturally level up your skills, and there are many ways to improve the skill you like. Players can trade resources, so it's not a chore to level up your gear or complete side quests that require the player to gather a few of them. Progression is also kept between campaigns, so you can just continue from where you stopped. Now to the 3 things we didn't like. We're going to start with the main boss fight. I think the 3x3 grid doesn't give many possibilities for the fight to be more tactical. There are not many options of where to go, and although the fights have unique mechanics, they don't stand out as much as they could if they had a bigger grid. The second thing we didn't like is a very small thing, but I would like to mention, and that's the foraging resources. They tend to be a little bit centered on some specific areas and not evenly spread around the board. The third thing that we didn't like is actually nothing. There's no third thing we didn't like for this game. It's really great overall. Stay tuned for new reviews and board game guides coming up soon, and check these other videos right here for more board game content. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye!